Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give the guests a few minutes to walk in. If you want to have a seat, there is some space over there. Welcome, everybody. I must say, I think it is very nice to see how Nampo Cape is developing, how it is growing, and how it is becoming a fixture on the agriculture calendar. If one looks 5, 6, 7 years ago, it nearly came to an end. The whole agriculture show here near Bredasdorp, and it is wonderful for the show, for the people, for the support. But what we are talking about today, before I introduce my guests, is the fact that the AgriSETA believes and finding that there is a shortage of skills in the agriculture sector. Now, the point with a shortage of skills, it has a number of negative effects on a sector. First of all, it inhibits growth. It inhibits competitiveness, but also it takes career opportunities away from individuals. They are simply not able to be gainfully employed, but they're also not able to reach their own dreams and fulfill their potential. So when you talk about skills and you talk about the shortage of skills, it has an impact on quite a number of ways in the sector. And therefore, in a sector like agriculture, which is developing in terms of technology, in terms of the use of data, the equipment, if you look outside, and I'm not talking about if you believe in a green tractor or a red tractor or a blue tractor, it becomes incredible pieces of technology. It is expensive pieces of technology. And then you walk through the halls and you look at the precision farming technology, the data technology, and you realize that it requires skills. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to take part in where this is going. The companies, agriculture companies, invest billions of euros and dollars to make sure they compete with one another on a technology basis. But the people need to be there in order to be able to reach their potential, in order to have the right impact. So my guest today, I've got the Minister of Agriculture for the Western Cape, Dr. Ivan Meyer. Welcome and thank you very much. And I must say, and I say it every year, a big difference between the Western Cape and the rest of the country is the Minister of Agriculture attends Nampo. It doesn't happen in the rest of South Africa. You struggle to get the Minister of Agriculture at any agriculture event. Whereas in the Western Cape, you get the Minister of Agriculture. So thank you very much. Right next to him, Philip Harmse from UXI, which is a company specializing in skills and skills development. Then we've got Daryl Jacobs from the Department of Agriculture in the Western Cape. And then Professor Andre Jooste from the University of Stellenbosch. Andre, I want to start with you. Obviously, when we talk about skills and agriculture and competitiveness, because what we have to realize is a South African farmer competes for rack space with a farmer in the rest of the world. A South African grain farmer price is derived from an international price. Your perspective on skills, knowledge, and our competitiveness?
Yeah, I think when we look at the skills required in the agricultural sector, it's becoming more and more sophisticated. It's all about the opportunity cost of training people, making sure that they do the right things right and efficiently and in a timely manner. So if you want to deliver fruit overseas that is compliant with the international standards, you need skills from the ground up, right through the value chain, to ensure that, you know, all of those protocols, everything that happens in that value chain is done properly. Otherwise...
And it's traceable now.
Traceability, the technology is becoming more and more important. We, for example, are busy with a project in our faculty, which we call the Faculty of the Future, where we are talking to a number of industries. One of the questions that we are asking them over and above research is, what is the teaching and learning outcomes that you're looking for? And you can see that, there's a different skill set required, and it's not only academic skill sets. There's other soft skills. How do you work with people, conflict resolution, negotiation skills? All of these issues are becoming more and more important. I think for an institution like our institution is to step back a little bit and say our academic offering, which they say is fine, but we need other skills coming in. The other important one that I forgot is, the whole issue of data science. You can't just become an agronomist anymore, or an agricultural economist or a food scientist in your silo. They want to see that multidisciplinary approach, and that creates curriculum issues which we have to reevaluate.
So let's just for a second stop at that curriculum issues. Somebody with a degree in agriculture, when they go into the market, obviously there's a set of skills required by the market. To what extent is the curriculum matching the skill set required?
I think the curriculum, in terms of the hard skills, the feedback that we get is you teaching the students the right stuff. However, we don't want to spend 2 or 3 years in engineering them into our particular industry. You need to look at a couple of other things. And amongst others, like I mentioned, is the soft skills. In the previous discussion, Sean mentioned, this working with data throughout the value chain. What data skills are you giving to the students? Do they know what to do with the data, how to interpret it? And take that data, transform it into information, and then transform it into business intelligence.
But Darryl, there's skills required throughout the value chain, even on a farm.
Sure.
There is a broad range of skills, and all those skill set, that chain needs to work. How do you approach it?
Sure. And firstly, good morning. It's really great to be here. It's a great honor to be on this panel. And so I obviously represent not only Western Cape Department of Agriculture, but Elsenburg Training Institute, that I'm currently acting interim principal of. And the one thing that we have identified, and which is why as an institution, we have both an agricultural skills development leg, which offers short courses, learnerships, allows for recognition of prior learning, the very issue which you raise. And with that, we've got a very successful partnership with AgriSETA, who are funding our recognition for prior learning process, because it is about recognizing, for example, that farm workers or agri workers have developed a range of skills, and the only thing they lack is a formal qualification, and RPL
but they've got
allows for that process. And so that is part of the process that we're busy driving through our agricultural skills development process, and then we're Agricultural Skills Development Directorate, and then we have a higher education part, which covers the diploma in agriculture, which is 3-year qualification, and the Bachelor of Agriculture. And I think it's important to emphasize that with our qualification, our 3-year qualifications, as opposed to Stellenbosch University, which is in terms of the agri-science component, it's a very scientific basis, whereas ours is production-based. It allows for example, in our diploma program, the 3rd year, that student goes onto a farm for the entire year. It's very practical. It's a well-known fact that 80% of winemakers in South Africa, for example, come out of Elsenburg simply because of the practical component. It's very strong. They do harvesting. They're involved in every part of the value chain, and that is why it's so successful. And further to that, we very recently concluded an independent evaluation on the employability of Elsenburg graduates. And it was heartwarming to see that 68% of our graduates are employed within the agricultural value chain within 6 months after qualifying. And it speaks to the kinds of practical, experiential experience that they gain while completing their
And
qualification.
that is a challenge in South Africa.
It's
People
a
get the
major
qualification, but there's no employability
Absolutely.
post the qualification.
Absolutely. And I think that is why the demand for placement in Elsenburg is so high, because there's that recognition.
That you can
You're most
actually
likely going to be employed. You stand a greater chance of being employed with an Elsenburg qualification than probably with very many other qualifications.
Philip, in the space of skills development, what's your approach?
I think, like mentioned already, to be a farmer requires a great many of skills. And definitely the skills that were mentioned here is paramount that for the industry to grow and to remain competitive internationally. But there's a large component of farmers that needs tractor drivers, cherry pickers.
Just on that,
Oh, yes.
a farmer said to me that if he had told his dad 30 years ago that his tractor operator got headhunted, his tractor, not driver, tractor operator got headhunted, his dad wouldn't believe that. But that is the case.
Absolutely. And once again, I'm staying with one of my friends on his farm just outside Caledon. And he spoke to me. I was like, what is your biggest issue? And he's like, when we least expect it, in the heat of season, I need a welder. One of my implements broke. I need something to be fixed. There's such a wide range of skills that farmers need to remain competitive. And that's specifically where our organization falls in. So we also do practical training, artisan education, so electricians, welders, millwrights, boiler makers, diesel mechanics, tractor drivers, forklift operators, and stuff like that, which definitely supports this industry. And a big thing that I've realized, I've only been part of this organization for 4 years now, is there's a very big gap in the South African industry as a whole, where there's many professions, job opportunities for people that the education industry is just not catering for. And it's not necessarily the high-level employees, but there's, let's call it the multitudes. And something that I've realized over the past couple of years is also that, like I mentioned, the tractor operator getting headhunted, the salaries in the artisan industry is not something that people should look down on.
And they kind of don't always appreciate that.
They
The
really don't.
ability for any industry to pay for those skills. But Minister, from your perspective, obviously skills has got a few factors. It adds to the growth of a sector, but it also has a massive impact on the individual.
Absolutely, Theo, and good morning, and to thanks all the people in the audience, because I've invited people here also to be in the audience that does practical, hands-on skills development. But when you introduced this topic, I heard you used 3 words. You said skills, knowledge, and competitiveness. Now, you know the Western Cape is very competitive, and my job here as the Minister of Agriculture is to see how can we increase our global competitiveness. And I do this because I'm the Minister of Economic Development and Tourism and Agriculture. My key job is to build a 1 trillion rand economy in the Western Cape. Now, to do that, I need to focus on certain specific areas. One, for example, very important, I must make sure that there's an increase in investment by 20%. I must make sure that increase my exports. I must make sure that we have infrastructure. I must make sure that we also have water security, innovation, very important, and then your issue. Proper skills for growing the economy. And I think there are different modalities of training. There's the academic training, there's a practical training, there's a skills training, then there's on-the-job training. And I have seen how people, and some of them are in the audience, how on-the-job training revolutionize the training and the skills development that we see here. And I want to thank them because we live in the 4th Industrial Revolution. And if you live in the 4th Industrial Revolution, you need the appropriate skills in the agricultural sector to facilitate that skills transfer. I'm very happy that he mentioned because the Institute for Future Research at the University of Stellenbosch did a study. What are the skills required by 2035 in agriculture? And these are the skills. I brought it with. They say the skills that we need for agriculture in the future by the year 2035, and by the way, that's also the target, that I must grow the economy to a 1 trillion rand economy by 2035. Now, I will not be able to do that unless we train people in soft skills, in teamwork, unless we do systems thinking and design thinking, unless we do technical integration, and also data management, you spoke about that, and also storage, analysis, and security, and the last one, very important also, basic natural sciences, soils, biology, plant and animal sciences. That one I think we're very familiar. So the university has produced for us a list of agricultural skills that we need by the year 2035. But when I came into this position 6 years ago, I made it my mission with the Western Cape Department of Education to grow our agricultural education footprint. Because ons kan eerlik wees, Suid-Afrika op alle vlakke in die samelewing is stukkend. Landbou is 'n werkwoord, bou die land. En ek dink landbou is uniek geleë om die land te bou. En daarom ondersteun ek meer landbouskole in die Weskaap. Daarom ondersteun ek meer landbouvakke in bestaande skole, landbouwetenskap, landboutegnologie en landboubestuurspraktyke. And I am very happy that I found a partner in the Western Cape Department of Education by introducing agricultural subjects. And Theo, you ask always, what is the outcome? What was the result? Can I give you a practical example of what that outcome was? There's a school called Bonnieville, Jakes Gerwel Technical School. Fantastic work that happens there. The farmers built that school, partnership with the education department. Once they introduced those subjects, 4 outcomes were achieved. And no other industry can achieve something like this. Firstly, the discipline at the school improved, because in agriculture there's a discipline. Number 2, the educational outcomes improve. Children love it. Thirdly, less anti-social behavior. The police said the children are not fighting after school, they're not joining gangs, because after school, there's a farm, there's work. You occupy the time, people find it exciting, so you have less crime. And fourthly, also important, less teenage pregnancy. Social workers, the police run around and find crimes and talk to teenagers. You just build agricultural schools and those problems are solved. And I'm very happy to see that Dr. Theo from AgBus is nodding in that direction. We need more agricultural schools because you can deal with that discipline. And I am on a mission, and this is an unstoppable mission, to have more agricultural schools, more agricultural subjects with the Western Cape Education Department, because we see the results.
Andre, from a education point of view, moving slightly away from the Western Cape, more from a national government, why are we hearing that agriculture schools are struggling, are failing? What is the reason behind that?
I think the short answer is, do they have the same minister with this passion that we've just heard that is pushing that particular agenda? I think, it is critical that you support that agenda throughout the country, because if you have that, you have the support of government. The farmers really want to send their kids to proper institutions with well-trained teachers. And as Darryl has mentioned, the same applies, that if you must send your kid to an institution and you know that the outcome is not going to be the correct outcome, they will send it to another institution. I think that's the natural way that it will go. I think more concerning for me, and I think it's throughout the education value chain, is the amount of money that government is putting into our youth that must lead this country into the future. I know your question was aimed at schools, but if you look at the tertiary institutional level, this past year, the higher education institutions only received the same budget that they did last year. So in real terms, there was a decline in their budgets of around about 8%. Now that's a critical issue that we need to try and address, and we don't necessarily understand or have appreciation of the impact of that. Because if you want to teach students that must stay at the forefront of what's happening internationally, as far as the skills that they need to acquire, you can't buy that equipment because you don't have the budget. You can't maintain your infrastructure because you don't have the budget. So it trickles through the whole system. I think it would be a really good day if we can have more agricultural schools, as the Minister has mentioned, because he just indicated, what are the significant benefits that you can derive from that. But it's the powers that are that needs to, drive that process from higher up to ensure that we get that momentum.
Darryl, your view on that?
No, I mean, I think there's no doubt that resources for me is absolutely critical. The need for more agricultural schools, I think it's been well documented. I was just in Swellendam last week, where we looked at some of the infrastructure there to see to what extent we can, in fact, as almost a very quick win, establish an agricultural school or school of skills which incorporates agriculture to create opportunities for our young people. I think, but we do sit with the reality of resources under extreme pressure. I mean, Elsenburg Agricultural Training Institute, as with the Department of Agriculture, as with the Western Cape Education Department, which has been well documented, are under extreme pressure because of what has been happening elsewhere. But I think what we've been very strong about, and you may know that there's been enormous pressure to want to shift agricultural colleges, which is sort of the second phase from agricultural schools, into the national landscape. Now, constitutionally, that may be so, that higher education is the mandate of national education, but we've been very clear, supported by the Minister, to say there's no way we're going to allow Elsenburg to shift into the national landscape because it's going to be destroyed there. And we resisted strongly with a very strong base and a solid partner in Stellenbosch University to say, notwithstanding the constitutional mandate which vests higher education within the national landscape, we are still going to partner with Stellenbosch University to make sure that our qualification is accredited and continues to be accredited through them.
At that point, the other agriculture schools in the country, do they report to the local, the government, the provincial government, or where do they report to?
There are one or two that are under the national government, but the bulk of them are within the provincial
and that comes back to your
departments.
Point, Andre, about the fact that they're not managed properly.
No, I think it's critically important. Darryl has summed it up perfectly. So the resources that's available, with resources you attract talent.
Yeah.
Not only in terms of the learners, but also the teachers. Because, I mean, the teachers are critical in this whole equation to ensure that the learners get the necessary skills. If they get the necessary skills, they can go up a step higher. Something that we have not mentioned yet, with these budget cuts, national government has also limited the number of students that can be taken into universities. Our university has, I should not mention this, they have been a little bit naughty and allowed a little bit more students than allowed in, but they actually don't have a choice because you have that talent. Where do you actually send that talent if they apply?
And where do you develop the talent?
Exactly. So, if you want to create this pipeline of highly skilled people, you need the resources and the people to train those students.
In order to be able to fulfill them.
Yes.
Philip, you kind of on a different segment of skill training. from your point of view, does the person out there, the young person, do they acknowledge the value of having a skill and getting employment in, let's say, the agriculture sector? Do you think that is the agriculture sector does enough to market the opportunities?
I definitely think they don't. But I think that's a problem in South Africa as a whole, is if a kid goes and study, you can ask many students at university, what job are you going to do one day? And very few of them know. They're studying without the concept of how that skill actually translates into a work one day. A big part of the move in our industry specifically is the introduction of QCTO the last couple of years, Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. And a big change that they've made is your qualification is directly linked to a job. So your job is no longer you say you study electrical something, you study electrician. Your qualification name is the name of the job that you're going to do one day. And that direct translatability has definitely, I think, increased people's awareness of how a skill translates into a job one day. But I still think there's a big disparity where, even if you think about the concept of electrician or plumber, how does that physically translate into a work one day? In which industry am I going to work? And I think we need to still do a lot of work in terms of letting people understand. For instance, we also train millwrights, which is a combination between an electrician and a mechanical fitter. Most of our millwrights, actually I think all of our millwrights, gets absorbed into the agri-industry, into big organizations such as Parmalat. We also work with Jakes Gerwel along the same lines, or Lactalis, Southern Oil. People don't understand that all of these big companies in the agri sector really need, they function with the use of artisans like millwrights and welders. And we definitely need to create more awareness along the lines of what you study and where do you actually use that one day. Secondary with that, I think, for instance, I studied actuarial science. I don't work in that industry anymore. But I think a lot of kids say exactly the same thing. They studied something, law, many things, but they end up working in different industries. And we need to create more support where there's transferability from what you study into what you actually do one day at your job. And just going back to my point previously, looking at industry as a whole to see what is all of the skills that they actually need. I had a look, for instance, at the AgriSETA Sektor Skills Plan that they released this year, and part of the stuff that they mention in there is they need electricians and millwrights and stuff like that. So at least the industry is acknowledging that they need these skills, but trying to make this entire ecosystem work. Something that I also just thought about a little bit earlier as they spoke is I'm part of the exco of our company, and I sort of wish we had a line item on the income statement to say government funding. As a private institution in South Africa, we don't necessarily get budgets. So the service that we deliver truly needs to be aligned exactly with what industry needs. And luckily enough, we receive quite significant support from the CETAs, but that is through bursaries for students. So more or less this year, we had the opportunity to give 3,000 students bursaries. And also as part of the tracking process, we had a look at where do these kids end up one day. And once again, we also did this study. Within 6 months, 89% of them received employment. And most of them, the average salary was above 20,000 Rand. So there truly is a huge shortage in this country when it comes to specifically the skills in our sector. It leads to employment, it leads to good salaries, so yeah.
You talk about government support for training. Just elaborate on that a bit.
So once again, as mentioned, like I think a big problem with education at the moment is we are too far away from industry. I mean, if I think about my friend's farm in Caledon, the closest institution to support him is Elsenburg. And for the average employee that he has on his farm, that is too far for him to look at an institution for support. And trying to get institutions closer to where the need is. Specifically, I think the agri sector is probably the worst sector when it comes to this. If I think about a school in a town, the school is probably 10 kilometers away at the furthest. You can get farms easily 10 kilometers wide themselves. Just trying to think about
So access to education.
access
to skills
access
transfer.
to good skills, and that is a cost that is very difficult to carry. And I think that is definitely where partnerships, once again, like mentioned, more schools closer to where the need is, and I think that is something we can definitely partner with in terms of understanding how we can grow.
Minister, if you look at, we've talked about the fact that there is, agriculture is a business that relies on skills, it is technology, it is data-driven, it's very expensive equipment, and we have this massive unemployment problem in South Africa. From where we are now, where is the kind of focus areas to start to assist with this process and to give more people opportunity in gainful employment? Where does the different role players fit into?
No, thank you, Theo. I think what we have seen, government has a role, the private sector has a role, individuals have a role, but what I do see are companies, given the scale of the unemployment problem, sometimes we want to solve the unemployment problem with high skills development. What I have seen, and they are right here in this audience, Palenk, Mr. Philippe, a person that has been unemployed, working in a garden, coming up with no real hard technical skills, been given an opportunity, and that man is in the audience. I want him, with your permission, to tell his own story of how he was a gardener, given an opportunity, and what he is today. That type of skills. I've met another man, he's also in the audience. He manufactured South African tractors, South African products, unemployed people that build tractors, massive stuff, went overseas to train such people. I think I'm here today to also acknowledge the role that private individuals and private companies are doing to deal with this massive unemployment problem. And it's really inspirational to see what manufacturers, people in the industry are doing, and perhaps, Theo, with your permission, that story must be told on the show.
All right, can you just assist us? Have you got the microphone? Yeah.
Yes, good day, everybody. Thank you, Minister of Agriculture, for inviting us today. It's a great privilege for me. So I'm Philippe Bonne. I came to South Africa 11 years ago to found the Penang branch in South Africa. It's a great country, but since the start, I always struggled to find the right know-how in our industry, because we require technicians. I think it's Philippe who said it's also very difficult to find operators. So we are facing the same issue. At the beginning, I was ready to train operators on the farms, but there was never time to train them. So we also need the farmers to understand that training is essential for the use of the type of equipments we are manufacturing. I speak about grape harvesters, olive harvester. So there is a lot of technology. And secondly, we also struggle to find technicians to maintain these equipments that are very expensive. And if you can't provide service, it's a disaster. So I decided on my side, I'm ready to employ people from scrap. Maybe they don't have the know-how, but we are ready to train them as Penang, South Africa, and give also opportunities to young people. And South Africa is a great country with a huge potential, but the lack of qualified people in our sector, especially technicians, is limiting our growth as Penang, South Africa, because we could grow much faster. But if I want to open workshops, I first need to find the right people. I need to find the technicians. So we started in Paarl. 2 years ago, we opened a small workshop in Robertson. 1 year ago, we opened a workshop in Nelspruit, Mbeera. This year, at the end of this year, we're going to open another workshop in Northern Cape. But we cannot move faster because it is difficult to find technicians. And so Lorenzo will also share his experience, and I'm very proud of Lorenzo because he's a young man. One day he came to see me, and he was not scared to come to see me, and he asked me if there is an opportunity for him. He would like to become a technician. He looked at the Penang products, and I said, "But yes, bingo, let's come work with us." And what he did was amazing, because Lorenzo is someone that is ready, is young, is ready, is eager. Zoals ons sê in Afrikaans, heeft oemf. en ik denk, daar is bij jong mensen wat het kan doen, zoals Lorenzo. Maar die probleem, bij jong mensen is bang. Alle is bang. Zo, maar Lorenzo, je kan misschien praten.
Goedemiddag, bonjour, good afternoon. Ik is Lorenzo, ik is technicus. Ik geloof, ik is een van de beste technicussen in Zuid-Afrika. Mijn droom was geweest om in die landbouindustrie te gaan, als gevolg van fondsen wat die beschikbaar was, als gevolg van requirements wat te hoog was, is het baie tough en difficult voor een persoon om in de industrie te gaan wat lief is, wat de passie heeft daarvoor. En ik denk als baie jong mensen buiten wat verschrikkelijk goed die taak kwijt kan raken. Maar als gevolg van financiën wat beschikbaar is of beheersen wat beschikbaar is voor hulle om dat te doen, is dat ontwerp een vrees aan een jong mens. Wat op je ogen zo weerdrijft om naar een volgende plan toe te gaan, wat voor baie jong mensen bemoedigt om naar een ander land toe te gaan om diezelfde ding te doen. En ons jong mensen, daar is niet baie wat ons als harder werken zoekt. Dat begint bij die basis goed, net waardering. Als baie werkers daar buiten wat net die waardering zoekt van een leier. En dat motiveert voor hem om harder te werken. En dat motiveert voor hem op je ogen de beste van die situatie te maken. Ik mezelf weet, ik heb totaal en al geen ondervinding gehad in die industrie wat ik wil gegaan heb. Mijn vakken op school of mijn resultaten voor naschoolse education was baie laag geweest. Maar ik heb dit daarop gegeven, ik heb die volgende plan uitgewerkt. Die ene deur is toegegaan, ik heb die volgende deur gaan openmaken. En ik heb een tuin gewerkt en dat was voor mij, het feit dat ik het niet geniet had, dat ik aan de industrie moet ingegaan had om te overleven. Het dat voor mij fysisch gepreek. En ik heb nog steeds moet gauw en ik heb de wonderlijke baas ontmoet, zoals Philip. Ik heb mijn vertrouwen in mijn zak gesteekt en ik heb voor hem gevraagd of hij net mij de gelegenheid kan geven om net voor hem te wijzen wat de jongman tot in staat is. Wat graag in die bedrijf wil gaan, wat de passie heeft daarvoor, maar niet financieel ondersteuning heeft om het te doen. Hij heeft voor mij die gelegenheid gegeven, ik heb het aangevat. En ik is verschrikkelijk trots op mezelf en de geleenthede wat daar buiten is en geleenthede wat ons nog benodig. Zoals bijvoorbeeld financiële bijstand. Ik voel ons het tekort aan financiële bijstand aan verskriklike groot maatskappye wat finansiële bystand kan bied vir ons jong mense. Ek voel as ons die verwagtinge van hoë educasie bietjie kan verlaag om almal te kommendeer, sal dit 'n groot sukses in die landbou rol vertolk. En daar's baie jong mense daar buite wat die ervaring het vir die industrie nie. Maar glo my, dit wat hulle kan insit en wat hulle van die maatskappy kan maak is verskriklik verstommend. En soos hulle sê, the proof is in the pudding. So ek glo daar's baie mense daar buite wat graag in die industrie wil gaan, wat 'n sukses van wil maak, maar die ondersteuning van ons land of die ondersteuning van maatskappye wat net finansiële bystand kan gee, wat 'n tekort voor is wat ons jong mense op die ou en wegdryf na ander inrigtinge toe. En ek sê vir elke boer baie dankie in Suid-Afrika vir die wonderlike rol wat hulle vertolk. Daar is verskriklik baie goeie maatskappye wat geleenthede skep vir ons jong mense. As ook ons maatskappy wat op die oomblik besig is om 'n scholarship aan te bied vir een van die landboustudente by, as ek nou niet seker is, Polen Landbouskool in by Oxburg.
Ja, baie dankie
Lorenzo. Net gou, hoe kry ons, nie net een Lorenzo nie, maar honderde en duisende, ek dink jy het begin daarna mik.
Ja.
Hoe kry ons dit reg?
Sure, ek geniet jou storie. Ek is dankbaar om deel te wees van 'n organisasie wat ons baie sulke stories het as deel van dit wat ons vir mense bied. Ek dink 'n groot leemte in ons skool se opvoedings, kom ons sê maar vakke, is die feit dat die vakke baie teoreties aangelê is. En definitief
te min prakties.
Te min prakties. En dit wat ons definitief ervaar is, byvoorbeeld ons as instansie, die regering ook, sê vir ons kan selfs na kinders se graad 9 punte kyk, om hulle as deel van ons instansies deel te maak van dit. En baie kinders wat op skool...
So net op daai punt, die feit dat die skoolstelsel faal, in terme van punte wat Lorenzo genoem het, dit is ook besig om die ou terug te sit, want sy skoolstelsel het nie gewerk, die hoërskool het nie gewerk.
Ja, en ek dink, definitief, so ons moet 'n oorbrugging doen wat hulle nog steeds by ons tegniese wiskunde moet doen. Maar die ouetjies doen uitstekend. Die oomblik as die wiskunde gepaar is met iets wat hulle prakties verstaan, ewe skielik gaan die liggies aan. Weer eens, as dit in lyn is met iets waarvoor jy passievol is, presies daai statistieke wat jy gesê het oor die landbouskole, ewe skielik kom al passie uit wat hulle nie geweet het hulle het nie. Die tipe etiek waarmee ouetjies werk in ons instansies, ek is seker as ons vir hulle skoolonderwysers gesê het, hierdie is dieselfde kind, sou hulle gesê het, ek glo jou absoluut glad nie. So ek dink daar is plek in ons instansies om definitief meer sulke geleenthede te kan skep. Ek kan sien die ouetjies doen beter daarmee, en presies ook die scholarship soos wat jy genoem het.
Ja.
Een van die groot funksies wat ons maatskappy verrig is, ek het 'n admin afdeling wat namens maatskappye aansoek doen by die SETA's vir befondsing,
om te help om te ontsluit
vir apprenticeships. Die 3000 beurse waarvan ek genoem het, is sulke beurse. Dit is beurse wat deur die AgriSETA, deur die konstruksiesete gegee word vir maatskappye, om te sê, wie is die mense in julle gemeenskap wat julle dink hulp nodig het, en kom ons help hulle om dit te gee.
Net voor, minister, jy het genoem daar's 'n tweede geleentheid ook.
Ja, ek dink, as jy 'n revolusie wil sien, moet jy die revolusie aktiveer.
Ja.
En 'n revolusie het vennote nodig, in die positief sin van die woord, en ek is baie bly dat die Weskaapse Departement van Landbou ook saam met ons hierdie revolusie bedryf, want hulle het ook verskeie meer vakke ingebring by bestaande skole. Dis een ding om 'n landbouskool te bou, dis makliker om landbouvakke by 'n bestaande skool te integreer. En Theo, ek dink van die landbouadviseurs van die Weskaapse Departement van Landbou is ook hier in die gehoor, en ek sal graag wil vra dat jy ook vir hulle 'n geleentheid gee, want ek dink daar is 'n paradigma skuif wat plaasgevind het ook in die Weskaapse onderwysdepartement.
Dankie minister. Dankie vir hierdie geleentheid om in so 'n oop gesprek deel te neem om ook die Weskaap Onderwysdepartement se saak te stel. Ons is so 10 jaar terug, het ons in die Weskaap begin met 3 fokus landbouskole. Ons staan op die oomblik met 34 landbouskole in die Weskaap. Nou, jy het 2 soorte skole. Jy het 'n fokus landbouskool waar die landbouskool toegang het tot grond van om by so 1500 hektaar met toerusting ensovoorts. En dan is ons die ander skole wat net 'n landbourigting het in die skool. So die skole kan nou 'n vak soos landboutegnologie, landboubestuur, praktyke en of landbouwetenskap aanbied as 'n landbouvak. Ons was nou 3 dae lank in 'n vergadering gewees by die SG, waar die prioriteite vir 2025 uitgespel is. En die SG, die Apex prioriteit vir graad 10, 11 en 12 vir volgende jaar is landbouonderrig. So dit is iets wat ons verwelkom, want ek sê baie keer vir hoofde, as jy in 'n skool 100% slaagsyfer het, is nog nie te sê jy kan jouself op die skouer klop nie. Jy kan jouself op die skouer klop as al jou kinders wat uit daai matriek uitgestap het in 'n werk ingestap het. Dan kan jy jouself op die skouer klop. So ons moet gaan na vaardigheidsvakke. Ons moet beroepsgerigte vakke by die skole. Ons moet nie irrelevante vakke by 'n skool aanbied wat 'n kinders nêrens heen lei nie. 'n vak wat jy moet eers verder gaan studeer. So ons moet vaardigheidsvakke by die skole bring en ek dink dit is die toekoms vir ons land. Hier sit julle almal met uit tersiêre programme waar julle 'n kind wat van ons afkom, ons produk moet verder vat. En as daai kind nie relevante vaardighede het nie, kan ons onsself op die skouer klop. So ek dink in die Weskaap kan ons nogal, ons het in landboutegnologie, landboubestuurspraktyk die afgelope 10 jaar 100% slaagsyfer gehad. Ons het van sien maar hier by 1000 kinders van graad 10 tot 12 het ons na 10.000 kinders toe gegaan. So ons is op die regte pad. Ek kan ook dalk net bynoem hier vandag dat ons het 'n ding soos Growth for Jobs, G4J, ook 'n Apex priority waar ons kinders wil bemagtig op skoolvlak. Ons wil nie net 'n graad 12 sertifikaat vir daai kind aan die einde van die dag gee nie. Ons wil vir hom 10 ander sertifikate gee wat hy 'n CV kan bou op skoolvlak. So as hy die dag uit daai matriek uitstap, moet hy by 'n boer instap en sê ek het klaar 'n CV opgebou op skool. Dis my kwalifikasies en dan is ek aanstelbaar.
Ek kan employable raak.
Hy moet employable raak, 100%.
Unemployment se een probleem is unemployable mense. En dis wat jy daai brug wil maak. Ek wil vir jou 'n opvolgvraag vra. Toevallig Dr. Ferdi Meyer van BFAP sit met my gesels en hy sê, en ek sê jou advies daarop graag wil kry. Waar hy boer is daar tussen Pretoria en Rustenburg is daar 'n dorpie met die naam van Kroondal. En hy probeer hard om 'n landbouvak, 'n landboukurrikulum, deel van dis 'n laerskool, deel van die laerskool en die hoërskool se kurrikulum te kry. Hoe moet so 'n persoon te werk gaan as jy sê, maar ek wil by my 'n bydrae begin maak, ek is op die beheerliggaam van die skool, ek wil landbou inbring. Hoe maak ek?
Ja, dit is actually my volgende punt wat ek wou bespreek het vandag. Ons het so omtrent 3-4 jaar terug het ons met landboustudies graad 8 en 9 begin. Dit is nog net in 'n loodsfase waar ons nou in die Weskaap het ons 11 skole wat die landboustudies ingefaseer het. So landboustudies het jy die 3 vakke, landbouteg, landboubestuur en landbouwetenskap, en ons gee die kind basies 'n inleiding om vir hom te wys waaroor gaan die vakke, en dan as hy in graad 10 kom, kan hy een van daai landbouvakke vat. So dit is nog net 'n loodsfase. Dit gaan in 2026 gaan dit nasionaal geïmplementeer word waar enige skool dan kan aansoek doen om die vakke by die laerskole in te bring. So dit is graad 8 en 9.
So daar is 'n momentum agter dit om te probeer. Net te toevallig voor ek 'n paar vrae toelaat, want dis nou rooi ligte wat vir ons hierso sê ons moet stadig aan einde se kant toe staan. Een van die en ek gaan nie sê watter kleurtrekker dit is nie. Maar een van die kleretrekker sê vir my dat die tekort aan tegniese vaardighede is nou op so 'n punt, of eerder hulle akkommodeer iemand so ver dat as hy of sy wil immigreer, dan kan hy sy werk vat van die trekker diensentrum waar hy werk na 'n trekker diensentrum in 'n land waar hulle ook trekkers verkoop, omdat die premie lê nie in waar die ou bly nie, die premie is in sy vakkundige vaardighede. En hulle sal, as hy wil Australië toe gaan, of Amerika toe gaan, of Suid-Amerika toe gaan, dan verplaas hulle hom in die trekker besigheid na daai land toe. En dit kom maar net terug op die waarde van tegnologie, van tegniese kundigheid, en die vraag, in Suid-Afrika is dit baie groot, maar wêreldwyd. So, kom ek laat 'n paar vrae toe, is daar iemand wat 'n vraag het of twee? Ok, kom ons begin links voor by die dame, en dan gaan ons agtertoe, maar wat ek voorstel is, what I propose is that we take the 3 questions, and then answer the 3 questions. So, just 2 things. Who you are, and if you represent somebody, just state that. It's not a requirement, but it will help. And if the question is addressed to any specific person, I'd appreciate that.
Dankie toe. My naam is Larika de Bois. Het is baie mooi van jou om my 'n dame te noem. Ek is van Agri Skills Transfer en ek is 35 jaar in opleiding, 35 jaar 'n passie vir landbou en ek wy my lewe aan landbou toe. Waarom kan die skole, het sy of dit 'n dedicated landbouskool is en of dit 'n skool is wat landbou aanbied, nie 'n 13de jaar aan kinders aanbied waar hulle is nie. Na 13de jaar, ons van Agri Skills het die kurrikulum om daai studente toe te rus waar hulle is en watter streek hulle is om te begin met 'n landbouloopbaan. Dit is eintlik aan die departement van onderwys. Hoekom benut ons nie die fasiliteite wat ons het nie? Hoekom benut ons nie die skole wat reeds die infrastruktuur vir landbouopleiding het nie, die praktiese komponente?
'n tipe van 'n postmatriek in landbou.
'n graad 13. Ons het die kurrikulum. Ontmoet my.
Okay. Tweede vraag daar agter. Wag so 'n bietjie. Kom ons kry al die vrae. Daarso is 'n dame daai, ja.
Good afternoon. My name is Deli Sile. I am currently an intern at AB InBev. For those who don't know, it's South African breweries. So before this, I hold a degree in mixed farming. And when I did this, I figured, everyone in varsity is choosing something, either crop production or animal production. I want to interlink it some way. I've been out of varsity now for 4 years and been in the agriculture sector for 2. It's very difficult to get the practical experience. And I would like to say the government is doing something, but I think it's not enough. I'm listening now to the new things that are going to happen, where we're going to bridge the gap between the people who graduated in 2021 and the ones that are going to graduate now, because I feel like they have a more advantage than we do. So last year, the government had a program in the country where they hired assistant agriculture practitioners. That program lasted 7 months. When we look at the experience that our farmers need, whether you want to be a researcher, whether you want to be an agronomist, they want about 3 or 4 years experience. So then what am I going to do with my 7 months experience? So we sit at home and not be able to do anything.
So you went through the training, but there's a gap to get the experience.
Yes, so I did 7 after varsity. I sat at home and farmed a bit at home, and then there was this opportunity, so I grabbed it, but it was 7 months. And then now, thanks to AB InBev, I've got like a year in the crop production era, but it's also ending now in December, and they're not going to absorb us. But luckily, talking about employability, leaving this program, I've got BASOS, I've got AFCASA, I'm a John Deere operator, but many of these other internships don't equip us with these things that we need. We come out with the knowledge, but not the practical experience.
All right, and then the gentleman with the blue shirt.
Good morning to the panel and all the people here. My name is David Hayes. I'm from the Northern Cape. I'm representing the Vine Academy and Model Farm. So it's not wine, it's vine with the V, just making that distinction right there. So we're currently doing all of the stuff that you're saying, doing the technical stuff, helping the general workers getting there. But for me personally, I'm doing the 2-year diploma, and I'm not just speaking for myself now, but many of the students there, speaking to the Stellenbosch and also the Elsenburg gentlemen. What we want to really do is we want to be the best at what we do, and we are still very young and we're doing very good. I'm a student myself. We're doing really, really well. We've got a lot of practical experience. So we're coming out of pruning season right now, and I can prune now. I can definitely say I can go to a farm and I can lead a lot of people and help more people out there. But for a person like me, that you're speaking now of people being sent to Stellenbosch or Elsenburg, sorry, the guy in the middle, I forgot your name. And it's a little bit far, but now me being in the Northern Cape, going to the Western Cape. I love the Northern Cape. The river is in my blood. I've drank that water. And I want to stay there at the Wine Academy, being able to do a degree, going further, and then being the best in my sector there, because we're doing a lot of stuff there. And so that's my question. Is there any collaboration, any place where we can take hands with the Western Cape institutions? I know it's not your duty to help the Northern Cape, but we don't have a minister that's that passionate about. I haven't seen him. So thank you for being here. And thank you for being passionate about what you're doing. So that's my question. Is there something that's stopping us from taking hands? Is politics something stopping us from taking hands and taking it further? And can we speed up the process? I'm a young man, so I'm very impatient. Yes, so that's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want us to start with a question about a 13th year or practical year. Your view on that?
Baie dankie. Dit is 'n moeilike vraag daai, maar dit is ook maklik om te antwoord. Eerste plek, om 'n 13 jaar in te bring gaan 'n geweldige lot geld kos. Dit gaan die departement wat al klaar sukkel met finansiële ondersteuning van die sentrale onderwysdepartement DBE. Ons budget is so gesny dat dit gaan amper onmoontlik wees om nog 'n jaar aan te bring, maar ons probeer daai gap wel vul. En ons wou nie hierdie mense se inkomste daarvoor regvat nie, want as ons 'n 13 jaar in gaan bring, wat gaan hulle doen? So, maar ons probeer daai gaping vul deur hierdie ekstra sertifikate te gee aan kinders, soos 'n snoeikursus, skaapskeerkursusse, BKB se, al daai kursusse ekstra aan te bring. En ek wil aanvul daar wat gesê is net nou van 'n sekere trekker kleur, ek weet nie watter kleur is dit nie. Ons wil hierdie mense inbring na ons skole toe en ons wil trekkerkursusse kom aanbied. Ons het deesdae te doen met presisieboerdery, met VRT-sisteme, ons het GPS-sisteme, integrasie van data van jou planter, jou stroper, al hierdie goeders. Ons het 'n geakkrediteerde sertifikaat nodig van 'n trekkermaatskappy waar hy vir die kinders kom 'n opleidingssessie gee hoe trekkers werk. Daai kinders moet daai sertifikaat kan vat en hulle moet vir die H2A program kan aansoek doen in Amerika en gaan boer vir 'n Amerikaanse boer. Daai ou kan terugkom na my toe en sê, daai kursus wat ons gedoen het hierso by 'n trekkermaatskappy is waardevol. Dit het 'n vaardigheid vir daai kind gegee. So ons probeer in so 'n mate bietjie daai gaping vul. Ek hoop ek antwoord jou vraag. Ek kan dalk net vir Dr. Wheeler ook 'n kansie gee dat sy ook dalk net ietsie sê.
Baie dankie Albert. Wat vir my ook baie goed is om te sien in die verskillende skole en ook op die kursusse, and well done young lady for your training experience, and I wish you all the best. Dis baie lekker om te sien dat meisies ook agter die graaf inskuif, agter die gereedskap, agter die welding masjiene inskuif. En ons moet spesifiek ook vir die meisies en die jong dames in ons land daardie geleenthede deur sulke kursusse kan gee.
Your question, and I think it's something that perhaps we can look at. What is your advice?
So, I just wanted to start off with just a little story. So our organization went to Switzerland 2 years ago to look at their education system. Apparently they've got the best one in the world, so if they say so, what's it about? And something that's very interesting is from 16 years of age, they start integrating the kids into the workplace. So when you're 16 years old, 1 day a week you go to work, 4 days a week you're at school. 17, 2 days a week at work, 3 days a week at school. And so on till 18, 4 days a week at work, 1 day a week at school, and in 19 you are fully integrated into the economy. So there's a very high tactability into industry with touch, and very, very practical, which is definitely something we need to look at. There's problems in South Africa with that model. Transport, okay? Public transport internationally, amazing. So kids from 16-year-olds can work in the town next door and be there in 10 minutes without problems because it's free and it's quick and it's on time. So there's problems with those types of systems, but I think there's ways in which we can look at solving that problem locally already. Something that our institution does is, number one, 70% of our training is practical. So you get those practical skills with us. But also what we have done is we form partnerships with industry and we place students at workplaces. So you don't need to go and look for an internship. We give you the internship. So you will complete 3 months at our institution, then we will send you 7 months to an institution to go and get practical work. And throughout your 3 years of studies, you will be placed, hopefully, at least at 3 institutions. We've seen if we do too little, then you don't get enough exposure. If we do too many, you feel like you can't really get the grips of what's happening. You need to be at an institution for at least 6 months to understand the company, culture, and actually get some practical relevance experience. But when you finish your 3 year with us, you end with 18 months worth of work placement, logbooks, signed off by a qualified mentor saying you can actually do the job, and that means something.
Any other comment on that?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe I just want to try to deal with all 3 questions. Firstly, I'm
going to ask the minister to talk about the politics.
Because, that's for the minister. But I mean, I can also, maybe let me start with Northern Cape. The minister's on record saying he does not want agriculture in Western Cape to succeed. He wants agriculture in South Africa to succeed. It is about South Africa. And so with regards to the Northern Cape, we reached out on 2 occasions to the Northern Cape to embrace them and to say, work with us, partner with us. We want to learn from you and you learn from us. And there have been 2 such opportunities. We're also now busy with what's called the Sacramento Plan, where every provincial agriculture department identified particular projects that we can share with each other. And the Northern Cape, as part of that process, was invited. And so there is no hostility or anxiety or opposition in terms of Northern Cape. We also drove a particular process in terms of the 3 Capes, Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, Western Cape. So we have been trying definitely to reach out to Northern Cape. They may not have the same appetite as what we have in terms of reaching out and embracing, but that is there. That is there. It's very real. I think secondly, in terms of Lorika's question, we've had more than 4,000 applications for first year next year at Elsenburg. We can only accommodate about 200 of them. So you're talking about more than 3,000 plus applicants who we're not able to accommodate that could possibly be accommodated as part of a bridging program through Lorika's institution. And my question to Lorika would be, what is needed for that program to roll out? Is it infrastructure? Because you say that you do have the curriculum and all of that, but there may be something that you need for it to happen, because then we can direct some of the unsuccessful applicants into such a program. Because at the end of the day, there is the potential, as I say, of at least more than 3,500 unsuccessful applicants that could be accommodated in some or other bridging program. So I'm fairly keen to explore that. The young lady that was on the the AAP program, as a department, we were uncomfortable with the assistant agricultural practitioner program for the simple reason it was not properly thought through. We identified that as a weakness from the very beginning. It was driven by national. I don't want to play the national provincial game, but it was driven by national, and so it was no surprise to us when the program folded after 7 months, because it was poorly thought through, it was inadequately resourced. We had identified a number of concerns with the Director General at national level, and we are certainly pushing strongly for organizations, institutions, private sector to come on board and partner in terms of graduate internship programs. My daughter completed studying last year and is on a graduate internship program because it's a way of making sure young people get experience while they are seeking something that may be more permanent. And so that's something that as a department we hold very strongly to. The Department of the Premier has also advertised for graduate internships. And so that's an opportunity to try to bridge that particular divide, allow people or young people the space to develop some level of work experience after qualification.
And that is actually not only an agriculture challenge.
No, not at all.
That
not
bridge, unfortunately, is a big challenge for everybody. Minister?
I'm on record as Daryl said, I don't want the Western Cape to succeed. I want South Africa to succeed. Because I have families in the Northern Cape. They live in Kimberley. I've got family in the Northwest. I want them to succeed. I've got family in the Eastern Cape. My sister lives in the Eastern Cape. My primary concern as I sit here, I want South Africa to work. That's my primary objective. That's why 2 months ago I met the MEC for Agriculture of KwaZulu-Natal. I met the MEC of Gauteng in Northern Cape as well as the MEC for Gauteng. I am keen to transfer our knowledge, but as Daryl said, not in an arrogant way. We're also happy and willing to learn. 3 years ago, I went to California. We went there to drink tea and coffee, and somebody drank beer. And beer has a way of bringing out creativity that you have not seen. And this creativity was, and this was before the election, and I said to them, what do we do after the election to make South Africa work? And we developed a plan, and the capital of California is Sacramento. That's why the plan is called the Sacramento Plan. I said, let's develop a plan and help all the other departments of agriculture in South Africa. But we not only developed the plan, we took it to a committee of HODs of agriculture. They approved it. I will now, as the minister, take it to the MINMEC, to the 9 MECs of agriculture, and I will put it to them that your heads of the departments have approved it, because this will be to take South Africa forward. So that partnership and collaboration. Let me show you how real this is in the case of the Northern Cape. Piet Karsten, wat jy goed ken, in Appington, omgewing, in Kakamas en die wêrelde, hy sê vir my, hoorie, ek stel belang in wat jy doen daar in die Kaap. Ek wil studente finansier om Elsenburg landbou te kom studeer. Ek sê, nee, Piet, ek kan nie net geld gee vir studente nie. Kom kyk wat ons doen by Elsenburg. So he sent somebody from Karsten Boerdery. They came to Elsenburg, and what they saw blew them away. So they were so excited, so enthused, they said, this is the place. So Piet Karsten said, nou kan ons daar werk. I said, no, Piet, you saw my business, I didn't see your business. So I flew up to Uppington. I went to see him, and you know Piet, he saw my shoes, like Theo. He said, as 'n man sulke skoene het, kan ons besigheid gesels. The rest is history. He worked with me, I work with him. He funds students to study at Elsenburg. So that partnership is already in action. It is in place, people to people, and we are willing to also continue other collaboration. There's a government of national unity. Theo and I will retire in the next 15 years. We want to retire happily, and the government of national unity must work, and for it to work, collaboration with other provinces. This is the only country where Theo and I will die in.
Thank you. All right. I think on that note, we are quite a bit over our time. So what I am going to end off with that note. This is the country that we have. This is a country that we need to make work. I was talking with a CEO of one of the biggest property investment companies in South Africa, and his message to me was, people underestimate where we are currently. Transactions that for the last 5, 10 and 15 years were not approved, were not implemented, where capital was allocated to Europe, to South America, to Australia. They've approved transactions that they would not have approved 5, 10 and 15 years ago. And he said, the average South African will only realize this in 2 or 3 years' time. But transactions are getting approved that was never being approved by private sector committing capital to projects that were put on ice for 5, 10, 15 years. So, Minister, thank you very much. It is always a big difference to see that department, agriculture, various role players attend these functions. I hope that when you talk to your colleagues, tell them to also be part of these forums where things are getting discussed. So from my point of view, Professor Andre, baie dankie vir jou bydrae. Ek dink dat Stellenbosch speel 'n belangrike rol en gaan altyd 'n belangrike rol speel. Baie dankie. Darryl, thank you very much. It is great to have senior mense van die departemente op so profiel te hê. Philip, sterkte. Ek dink julle doen great werk. And then lastly, Minister, baie dankie. Dankie jou bereidwilligheid. En ek dink die energie waarmee jy landbou aanpak en ekonomiese ontwikkeling aanpak is deel van die sukses van die Weskaap. So van my kant af, baie dankie vir julle deelname. Dankie dat julle hier was en vir die paneel baie dankie. Dit was 'n lekker gesprek. Dankie.
Dankie Theo.
Dit was lekker. Dankie.
In 2020 het Africa Agritech die tafel gedek en gevra, hoe lyk die landboutegnologie en wetenskap van die toekoms? In 2025, 5 jaar later, bring ons jou 'n verdere blik op die jare wat kom. Hoe gaan wetenskap, innovering, uitvindings en tegnologie die landbou soos ons dit ken verander? Om beter te boer, moet jy slimmer te werk gaan. Landbou van die toekoms, data en analises, biotechnologie, kartering en ruimtelike data, geografiese stelsels, slim besproeiing en meer. Sluit aan, neem deel Ontdek, innoveer. Met kennis kan jy die toekoms aangryp. Wees deel van Africa AgriTech. 18 tot 20 Maart 2025.